Hi everyone, you're here with us at WelcomeTech, and today we have Shaunak Sen, who is a holder of the Global Talent Visa and who's going to share his experience with us. So, the first question that I have for you is why did you initially decide to move away from India? And out of all the options to move, why did you choose UK?
Firstly, thanks a lot for having me here. And it's a great opportunity to share my experience on this platform. And so, coming to your question, the reason why I chose to come to the UK was that in my first job, right, I was doing a lot of data analytics based work. And I came across this field of machine learning and AI in that. And I was super interested in that. And doing my master's had always been like one of the aims for me, and doing a bit of research on places to study data science, I came across plenty of universities in UK which offered that course in 1 year, a master's in data science or a master's in AI. And a couple of universities which I got offers from, like University of Southampton and University of Leeds. So they were part of the Alan Turing Institute, which really tells a lot about their research work in AI and the progress that they have made. Because I was interested in AI so much, I plan to come to the UK because when you see the global readiness score in terms of AI, UK is ranked quite high there as well. So my initial aim of coming to the UK was purely for education purposes. And then having stayed there for 1 year, having completed my education, I decided to, apply for jobs there. And that got me to the global talent route finally, after doing job there as in a startup as a data scientist.
So, when you decided you want global talent, you were already living in UK and you were looking for ways to like extend your stay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was on a student visa at that time, and I was working on for this startup as their first full-time employee. So the startup's name is Sparkbox, and there were a group of 6 people at that time. And yeah, I was working with them, really enjoying the work that I was doing, and we were thinking of options of how we can extend my student visa. So that I can work longer with them, basically. And they as a startup actually won the Tech Nation Rising Stars Award at that time. So they came to know about this global talent, or at that time it was called the Tech Nation Exceptional Talent or Promise Visa Route. So
Yeah.
they came and told me about it, that hey Shonak, this is something I think you should go ahead and try. Let's see if you can, because the application process was quite stringent, but
Mm-hmm.
they encouraged me a lot, saying that yeah, we think you should give it a shot and let's see what happens. So I decided on applying. Yeah.
So you received it like 6 months ago or a long time ago? Because I think I saw that you received it like a couple of years back, right?
Yes, I actually received it, let me think, I received it in 2020, early
Oh yeah,
2020 actually.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
so but I came to India at that time, right? But then COVID hit, so I couldn't travel back, so I was working remotely. And so the process is that after you receive the endorsement, you have to go through a formal application process, submitting your documents, and they give you a residence permit, and you have to come to the UK to collect that residence permit, basically, which is your final visa. So I couldn't come to the UK because of COVID, and my initial visa to come to the UK expired. So I had to again reapply. So I just did it. And luckily, I've got the BRP finally in my hands right now.
so that was actually another thing I wanted to ask because I saw on LinkedIn that you're currently working in a Bangalore branch of the firm that you're working in. So you had to come back because of COVID and you couldn't return to UK. So right now you're still in India, yes?
Yes, I'm still in India, and I'm not working for the same company. It's a different company now. So
Oh,
yeah, I worked for Sparkbox for around 2.5 years. And yeah, so I decided to just try on, like, so the reason why I left was basically, I had a lot of experience working at Sparkbox, great experience applying data science to the retail industry. I just wanted to shift things around a bit, and I got an opportunity at a cybersecurity firm, and I thought it would be really good for me to kind of work there. They have branches across US, India, UK, Singapore, all sorts of places. But yeah, I'm currently employed in India right now, but I do have like the global talent visa option for the next 5 years.
So when you now that you've received the regular visa to go and collect your residence permit, when you go to back to UK, are you going to move branch to branch, or are you going to like be a remote worker in the Indian branch? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so there's like so right now this current job doesn't require me to move to the UK at all. So they're
Mm-hmm.
quite happy like for me to be based out of India currently. So but the thing is that
Oh,
it gives me a flexibility to apply to jobs in UK as well, right? So that is, and UK ecosystem is really great in terms of whether you see startups or more established companies, they are extremely keen on hiring data scientists and AI engineers. So that is always a nice option to have. And having worked there for around 2.5 years also gave me a great insight into the great working culture that they have. So that's why I was super keen on, when I received the global talent visa, I was keen that even if I don't work there immediately for the next 1 to 2 years, let's say, I would still like to have that option, so that if I want to apply, I can do that without thinking of the sponsorship part of things. So yeah,
yeah.
currently no plans as of immediately, but yeah, good to have the option in that. Yeah.
That's perfect. And apart from your masters, which you did in Southampton, and apart from already working in tech, can you walk me through some other experience that you had that helped you receive the global talent? Like, what was your background, your portfolio that you showed them?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a very good question. I think, yeah, let me quickly, so just let me toggle my screen a bit so that I open the document which I had prepared for them, so that I can walk you through some of the proofs that
Oh,
I
that's
had given,
perfect.
right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so when I applied, so this information might be slightly outdated based on what the requirements are currently, but you essentially had to first pick like whether you fit into the exceptional talent route or the exceptional promise route. The exceptional talent is already for people who have a lot of industry experience, typically more than 10 years. And the exceptional promise ones are for people who have less than 5 years or 6 years experience. So that exceptional promise route resonated with me because I didn't have much job experience till then. And one of the requirements was that you had to like fulfill one key criteria and a couple of qualifying criterias, right? So the key criteria, there was you have to be recognized as having potential to be a leading talent in whichever field you are in. So that for me was data science and AI. And some of the documents which I submitted for that was firstly my job offer from Sparkbox. Secondly, so I had built up like a contribution and innovation chart document. So that kind of tells us that okay, these are the areas where I have. So by that time, I had already worked for around 6 months at Sparkbox. So basically, outlining the areas where I had contributed to, and what was my future plan with that, and what innovation I had brought, and what innovation I was planning on building in that area. So if we talk a bit more details about data science, like what sort of machine learning algorithms I had helped build, what are the things which I would like to do in the future, and how it would help the team basically in
Mm-hmm.
firstly in extending their AI capabilities, but also in the long term, right? To how to raise fundings, how to build up the team, how to help future data scientists, in their documentation and onboarding process. So all these things, right, which kind of
Yeah.
highlighted my contribution to my current company, that came
Yeah.
under key criteria. And also I had a supporting document from Sparkbox as to how the organization as a whole was innovating in the retail space.
Mm.
So that was another document which I provided.
So did it help that
Qualif-
the Sparkbox also won an award? So like their level was showing. Yeah.
Think it did, because in my personal statement, I had also mentioned that Sparkbox also was a technician winner in the Rising Star space, and that is how I got introduced to the whole space of technician global talent visa. So I think it did, yeah. And so the qualifying criteria one, if we come to that, was we have to provide examples of innovation as either an employee or a founder of a digital company, right? So there I had given examples of things like yeah, basically there I had provided examples of how I had worked in my previous company as well as in India as well as in Sparkbox. So I had a supporting letter from one of my co-founders at Sparkbox outlining the contributions I had made to the company basically, and how if I get the visa, what would be my immediate next steps of helping the company as well as in the long term to help build a team as well. So that was one document. Another document was an award which I had received in my previous company, Music in India. I had worked there for 1.5 years, and I had received a Spot Award, which essentially it helps them identify people who have worked really well and have done something impactful. So that was another helpful piece of evidence which I could provide, luckily, and like a reference letter from one of my previous team leads at a company in India. So I'd worked with him for well over a year, and I had requested him to give me a supporting piece of evidence for the which basically went hand in hand with the Spot Award, basically,
Mm.
but giving a bit more details into the work I had done in the previous company. So this
Yeah.
was the qualifying criteria one. And the second part was qualifying criteria two, in which we had to basically demonstrate how we have continuously kept on updating ourselves in this field. And so basically, it was a document which highlighted our continuous learning and how keen we were to keep ourselves updated. I think this criteria has been updated a bit now in the present format. I was just looking into it, but at that time, basically, we had to like provide how we have continuously kept ourselves updated. And
Mhm.
I'd prepared like for this, I'd prepared like a timeline sort of document, like an iconographic, right? So from
Oh.
2015 to 2019, like in the form of a nice timeline, what I've done to basically, so in 2015, how it all started, how I got interested in this field, right? What projects I'd done, what sort of, if there are any certifications I've done, right? So from 2015 till all the way to the applications, some of the key highlights of my career I had kind of plotted and created a nice document for that and put in all the hyperlinks necessary into that iconographic and sent out that. So that basically highlighted, okay, from 2015 to 2020, this guy has been fairly active in this field, and he has done some things, and he has kept on updating himself basically. So that was one thing which I felt was a differentiating aspect. Maybe instead of writing it all down, just presenting it visually might have helped some of the some of the people who are judging basically, and also the GitHub contribution activity and things which I'm planning on doing also I'd kept there as future to-dos, things like that. Yeah. So this was the brief overview of the
Yeah.
uh, documents which I submitted basically.
That's a very, first of all, that's a very strong portfolio. Second of all, I think that's a very
Thank
nice
you.
detail, like a very beautiful detail that you decided to visualize the information. Because if you work in tech, I think it's helpful to know you shouldn't always just write digits in text, and sometimes you should, sort of highlight the best and visualize information. That's important. So that's a good advice for, people who are applying.
I didn't want it like to be full of too much text and full more than 10-20 pages of just me writing what I've done. I thought that wouldn't be great. And just consolidating it and visualizing it might be
Yeah.
far easier for someone looking into it. Yeah.
So that's the global talent visa, but also I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you're doing now after receiving it. And one of the things that I'm curious about is what are the specifics of your work right now in Sparkbox? Like, if simply speaking, for someone who's not, in
Oh,
tech,
I'm
how would you
not with
explain?
Sparkbox currently,
Oh,
Karina.
you're
I'm not with Sparkbox currently. Yeah,
oh,
I started a new job just 5 months back. So I work with an organization called Zscaler currently in the cybersecurity space. So I'm still a data scientist. I'm a senior data scientist now with them, but yeah, still like working in data science, but not with the same company.
And what are the specifics of your position? Like, what does a data scientist do in that company?
Can be very varied, right? Just okay. So just to tell you about some of the key roles that we have currently is some of the key roles that I have currently is just firstly when we have a product or sub product to build, just figuring out the scope for it, right? Understanding the
Mm.
business problem, then going into the data, trying to see what sort of signals we can extract. Here a lot of programming expertise comes into play, right? Like working with new programming languages or frameworks, these sort of things. Visualization of the data is very important as well, right? So we have to be aware of some kind of dashboarding techniques as well, because you can't just analyze everything from text and numbers. At some point, you have to visualize stuff to get some real insight into that. This is the exploration part of things. And then after having done that, you try to see, okay, what kind of automation tools we can build, and machine learning fits into that as well, right? If there's some machine learning algorithm or AI algorithm we can build to either automate the stuff as good as humans do or even better. So you
Yeah.
have to do a lot of research into that. And after having done that, after having built like a good model in experiment phase, you have to see how we can deploy that in production, right? What are the good software engineering principles that we can use to take what we have done in the experimentation phase and deploy it so that so Zscaler deals with billions of transactions, right? So you can imagine at that scale, every little change you do, you have to be very careful that it doesn't break the entire pipeline. These sort of things, being mindful of how your model will do in production as well, whether it can survive that load. So yeah, right from understanding the business problem to dashboarding, visualization to some of the software engineering principle. Of course, we have a machine learning engineering team as well, which helps a lot on this. But we as data scientists also need to be kind of aware of the entire pipeline. Basically, we don't have to be super good in that. Because there are specialized people to help, but we have to at least have a high level overview of the entire stuff of the product. Yeah.
So you sort of have to be like a jack of all trades so that you know what your AI team is doing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That
And there's some other work as well, right? Like it's still a quite young and small team in India at the moment. So we have to like be me being a senior member have to like work with the others, trying to understand if they have any concerns or any roadblocks, try to identify that early and also help build the team in the future. So that is something which is very new to me at the moment because I'm relatively not that experienced still. So yeah, that is something which is very challenging, but at the same time fun.
so you enjoy your work right now, but if I had to ask, when and if you are planning to use the permit, the opportunity to live in the UK, which city do you think you're going to choose and why?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, actually. I would probably say, since I have already lived in Southampton and worked there, and I really like the culture there, but I would say probably the opportunities in London are a bit more than because I was before applying to Zscaler, I applied to a bunch of UK companies as well. And the opportunities which I found in London were greater than the opportunities I found elsewhere. So I would probably say in London, but it really depends on like where I get the best opportunity. City is not really a concern as long as it's not very cold. I'm fine with it. Yeah, but city is not that much of a concern to me, and I like to work where I get good work basically.
So that's good. You're flexible, basically.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah.
And when I think that's gonna, like, round up our conversation, last thing I want to know is back when you did the live in the UK during your masters, what would you say were like the best things about living in UK and the worst things? Like, what striked you as the pros and cons?
The best thing about living in UK, I would feel, was the international community there. Living in the student quarters and, getting to meet a lot of people and making a lot of friends whom I still have currently, of people from, Kenya, Mexico, UK itself, China, Taiwan. that was a whole huge different experience for me. And when you not only live with them, but when you collaborate and work on projects with them, so our university had a lot of like hands-on project-based courseworks, not just exam-based where you have to write your answers, but a lot of project-based courseworks
Yeah.
in which we had to actually work in a team of people of different nationalities and come up with a working solution. And just understanding their points of view from their own experiences was very very useful. So that was the best part. And also I would say the work culture there is very good.
Mm.
Having worked in Sparkbox for 2.5 years, there are a bunch of really supportive people, helped me at each and every step of not only the global talent visa but in general. So that was one of the best experiences I could have ever hoped for as a like starting data scientist. So that was my
Yeah.
first data science job, and I couldn't have asked for anything better. Apart from that, for the cons, I think that at the later part, when most of my friends were actually leaving back, it can get a bit lonely at times because you are from a different country, right? Far away from your core friends and families. And if you don't have a very strong relationship with the people there, it can get a bit lonely at times. So that is a bit challenging, but it's not really that big a deal. If you have come there for study, you make good friends there anyways,
Yeah.
so you can socialize, and if you're working there, you can socialize pretty well. But I did feel that at times it can get a bit lonely there. Yeah, so that is one of the challenges. And of course the cold weather in a couple of
I was
months
gonna
is
ask, yeah, how's the weather?
is not great. But I guess in Southampton it's not that bad as some other places, so I was fairly lucky.
Yes, it's manageable.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Shaunak, so much for sharing your personal experience. I feel like there's been a lot of like useful, unique details that you gave us. So, thanks for coming in. It was really nice
Sure.
to meet you. And
Sure, Karina.
yeah,
Thank
have
you.
a wonderful day.